In today's city update, we're going to be taking this area here, ballasting it in, and then putting in my newly designed train shed. I completely designed this building in studio before I ever thought about doing it, and then once I actually started building it, I realized I had to change a bunch of different things. I had to widen the building 4 studs, raise it up 2 studs, and then the roof design. When I got to the point where I was building that, I realized the studio version that I originally created had this ugly gap, but we'll discuss some of those changes as the video progresses. First, I want to start with showing you guys what I did for ballasting the train tracks, and I also want to tell you what method I use. If you've never heard of them before, today's your lucky day. Penn lug is a huge source of information. If you come over here and click on the L gauge reference instructions, you can go to their reference instruction page, and there is instructions on how to ballast any type of train track you can think of, whether it be straight or even, as you can see here, curved. And I will be including a link below in the description of this video so you can take advantage of those awesome free instructions to use in your Lego cities. To explain kind of what I'm doing, I'm not doing a traditional mills plate in this portion of the city. And part of the reason I'm looking at that is because it's just a train yard. I thought there's no point in building an entire mills plate underneath each section of train because the ballasting method that I use is very part intensive. It looks amazing, but it does eat a ton of parts. So I didn't want to waste a lot of parts that I didn't need to for what I'm doing. Back in the back part of the city, I will be doing ballasted train tracks on top of my mills plates, but that's because I'm also going to have a lot of different types of landscaping and buildings, and I love to use my mills plates to be able to route all my wiring throughout my entire display. I want to quickly explain why I had to widen the original design and how I'm ballasting my tracks. If you've ever noticed, in order for standard Lego tracks to work, you have to keep an 8 stud gap between your tracks if you're using official Lego track and official Lego curves like I am. Otherwise, everything will not align properly. And I have a huge surplus of this track in my barn on top of the fact of all the stuff I already have laid out on my table, and some of my track is even built into other displays. But for me, it just makes more sense to keep using what I already own as opposed to spending a bunch of money on track that I really don't need. Although I will say, I do love a lot of the off-brand tracks with the wider radius turns, because it makes a train look so much more elegant when it is traveling across them. This is my absolutely favorite part of any speed build, is when I start doing the tiling. I don't know what it is about watching the tiling go into work, but it's just so relaxing. And to me, it's my favorite part to just see it coming together so quickly. And yes, I am using brown, and no, those are newer pieces, and so far none have broken, as I know a lot of people are afraid to use brown because typically they are usually brittle. Now this last little bit of tiling, I'm just doing the outside 1x1 pieces for where I'm going to be putting in the building, because I had to have that done in order for me to put the floor in. And essentially the building is just a ton of masonry bricks. The entire base is 3 bricks tall of the light blue gray masonry brick. And then underneath each window, I have the modified plate. I have, I think it's 12 bricks tall in between each window of the masonry brick, and then I start bricking up and over and around it. But before I get any further with that portion of the building, I want to show you that I did, kind of in Mills plate fashion, we'll call it, plate in the inside of it. And I did that because I wanted to be able to tile it and put a very basic interior in it. With this being a train shed for maintenance of my train engines, I thought, you know what, let's just do a real basic interior. So what I did is I did a couple toolboxes, I did a hoist, a rack with some train track on it, a welder, and then I even put a little basket there with some train wheels. But let's get back to building the building. Back to using tons of nougat bricks, and also I'm using a whole bunch of nougat arches. The original reason for this row of tan bricks was because the parts I was using to support the roof, they did not make in nougat, but after redesigning the roof, I did not have to keep it. But it just looks so good having that color break on the building, I decided to keep it. The way the roof is supported now, though, it's just 2x3 plates that stick in, and I had to build a 1 stud gutter on the inside to fill in the extra gap that was between the roof and where it rested on the physical building itself. I absolutely love this design because it gives you a nice natural looking metal roof. And the snowplow piece that I'm using to do this is available in a couple different colors. Also, a quick thanks to Insomnia Builds for posting this build on Instagram to give me the idea to do this. His version wasn't strong enough to support a large roof, as the original design was built using 3L bars to hold the plow blades together. What I've actually done is I've built a 30 by 12 plate. I put the jumper plates on it to actually attach the plow blades with the two studs on the back, and having the jumper plate and a single round plate on top of it gives me enough distance that I'm able to slide the modified plates in between each one of these, removing the gap that I showed earlier in this video and just making an all-around much cleaner looking construction. And now we're going to get to do some landscaping and even the lighting. Adding the landscape and lighting is, to me, the absolute favorite part of any build, because that is what actually makes it come alive. And with landscaping, I like to add a lot of different varieties and colors, because just like in nature, not every tree, plant, bush, or anything is the exact same color. And by adding that nice variety and color, it just gives it a much more natural look. Where I live, all the railroad tracks have a lot of vegetation popping up and through all the gravel that is around all the tracks, so I tried to add a lot, and I mean a lot, of weeds and whatnot. I'm still debating on if I want to add some more trees and vegetation in a few different spots, but for now, this is pretty much where I think I'm going to stop it, because I do have some other builds I have to do in and around this. So let's jump into the lighting. With the lighting, I tried to simplify things as much as possible, as you could see by how quickly I was able to put them in there. I have 1x1 snot bricks that are in the corners and the locations of those lamps, and all I simply did is I drilled a hole straight through them, so that way I could come in and plug it into my expansion board. All the lighting products that I use in my builds are manufactured and sold by me, and if you want to get some of these awesome products to put in your buildings today, don't forget to check out my website, www.bevinsbricks.com, and there is a link below in the description of this video to my website as well. How I installed the lighting for the inside of the building, I just used the 1x4 lighted bricks with a 6-inch extension cable between each one of the lights, and then the last light plugs into the board on the inside of the building. Everything's installed, so it's time to give it what I like to call the burn test. I call it the burn test because if there's any problems or errors, they're going to burn up and show the first time I flick the lights on. And luckily, everything went smoothly, and I am really happy with how it turned out. And I have everything in this little area now finally illuminated and assembled. Both my train station and my train shed now have all warm white lights in them. And then in the background, you can see Main Street has all bright white lights in them. And even though I like the contrast, I'm kind of debating as to whether or not I want to change the Main Street lights out to a warm white as well. For now, we're just going to leave things alone though, because I got some other projects I want to get done. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and we'll see you next time on Bevins Bricks.